I'm really excited about today's guest. He's a personal friend of mine. I've known Curtis Cloke since 2009 when we met in a conference in Hawaii. Since then, we both have traveled the country helping retirees retire the optimal way. We've spoken in front of advisors and clients. Curtis's grandfather had a big impact on him early in life. So, Curtis, welcome. Why don't you tell us, how all this started and what you learned about money when you were very young?
So my grandfather taught me three basic principles of money that were very important to me that I've tried to have steadfastness about in my life and action. One, he said, hate debt. Now I realized my grandfather at a very young age lost the family farm, a three-generational farm in Iowa, and due to the Depression. And so he hated all debt. And I've realized there's good debt and bad debt. So there's a difference today. But hate debt and don't let debt rule your life. Second thing he taught me was to give 10%. The first 10% you make and do it early, but also give 10%. It's not just about you. Your life's going to be better and your opportunities are going to be greater when you help others along with it. But the third thing he said is 10% is really not a place to end. 10% is a place to start. Because when you find a success in whatever God created you to be, you're to consume less, you're to give more, and create more for others than you consume. And so those were early principles from the farm from my grandfather.
He taught you some work ethic too, if I'm not mistaken. So what did you learn about the importance of working hard?
Well, in addition to being on the farm during the weekends and on summer nights, which was very important to me, helping on the farm and the feedlot, spending mornings at breakfast time with my grandparents. I was an early adopter of work. At the age 9 years of age, I was mowing lawns. At the wintertime, I was shoveling walks. I was selling gold-plated Social Security cards door to door. I was selling Amway for my mother and tote trays to those ladies. I mowed their lawns and shoveled their walks. I was doing anything I could think of for extra income. And in middle school, I remember I had more money than anyone in my class. Parents didn't have a lot. If I wanted a ball glove, just like you, Tom, if I wanted something, I had to go pay for it. And so I literally have worked my entire life.
Well, we do have that in common because I had a paper route. I used to shovel snow. I mowed lawns. I was basically money motivated, but I wanted to save and I wanted to become wealthy. My parents didn't have much either. And so, you're from Iowa, I'm from Minnesota. I guess that's the Midwestern stuff. Now, I wrote the book and it was based off of financial wellness is how it started, but financial wellness sounds boring. So I changed it to Tom Hegnes, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? You and I filmed a 6-hour course. It was a 3-day course for advisors on how to help their clients become millionaires. Now you didn't really like that title. So kind of walk us through that.
Well, obviously, in light of my grandfather's, influence in my life, it was not just about the money. It was about others and serving others. I just felt like it sounded like a greed-filled title rather than a giving sort of title. And so, you and I talked it through, and you convinced me that despite the fact that name had the aura that it did, that we needed a sticky title to interest and attract. And so we realized that we both had a common mission of teaching advisors how to help people save money, creating meaningful lives of what I like to call fearless living, and to gain financial confidence to consider others. And it's to live and give abundantly. And so if the mission of the book was to create stickiness, to get people to attract to it and read, hopefully they would find the right motives in the book as they read it.
Yeah, and I think in the book I do talk about the importance of giving, and so do you in the book. And we both give at least 10% of our income to others, and I think that's one of the reasons people don't understand. When you give, you actually receive many blessings back, and many people don't understand that. But in the 3-day series, you talked a lot about 6 important steps to building wealth. Why don't you tell us what those steps are, and maybe we can dig a little deeper into each one.
Well, the first one is so important, is mindset. If you're going to save money and you're going to be successful in your life, you're going to be successful in retirement and successful in serving others, you've got to have a millionaire mindset. The only reason we really talk about millionaire is because there's no real way without at least $1 million at retirement you're going to have any meaningful type of retirement income. And in many cases, in many geographic locations, it's going to take multiple millions of dollars to accomplish that. But to accomplish that success, it's going to take a mindset. It's carefully watching your expenses, big and small, and it's maxing out those retirement income plans. But there's certain things you got to look for as you're doing that. It's not just blindly letting the automation of allocation apply and you pay no attention to it. It's seizing opportunity to increase your income. It's using your money to make money and avoid that lifestyle creep. Those are the things we'll talk about.
So you start out with the mindset. You know, I read the book, The Millionaire Next Door, years ago, and that's a lot about that millionaire mindset, you know, that the average millionaire out there isn't driving fancy cars and wearing fancy watches and doing all that. They're driving the old pickup truck and that. But tell us what you mean by mindset.
You know, when I started out, you know, I was having children and got married at 18. Bought my first house when I was 18 years of age. I didn't buy a beautiful home in the city. I bought a little bitty 3-room shack on a corner lot, and I tore down a 2-story house. My father cleaned all the lumber. We gutted that house, added on, and rebuilt the house for my home. I took 2 cars and made them into one. There were several things that I learned on the farm that allowed me to do a lot with very, very little. So here are the qualifications for the mindset. First is determination and patience. Be okay with some delayed gratification. I drove my 1977 Buick LeSabre until it had over 250,000 miles on it. Drove it a long time. I could have had a newer car, could have had a better car. Neighbors had better cars. But I literally wanted to save my money for retirement. Secondly is to have confidence and consistency. Confidence that you can do it, because if you lack confidence, you're going to be less likely to do it. It's part of the mindset. And then consistency of saving on a regular basis for both short-term goals, because you must have some emergency funds, but also those long-term goals, and realize there's a long-term finish line to get there. Next would be openness. And openness is about seeking wisdom. It's about others influencing you, those that care about you, love you, care about your family. Be open to people speaking to you. Be okay with some temporary setbacks and failures, because they're going to occur, but don't let that make you give it up. And then here's the most important thing I'm going to say about this topic. Everything we do in life is a cinch by the inch, but it's hard by the yard and it's a pile by the mile. So if we start early, it's a cinch by the inch, because if we do it all the time, I started saving for retirement before I was 20 years of age in my 401k. And so we just got to start early, and we got to stay consistent.
Yeah, young people have time on their side. You know, in the book, I say most Americans could be millionaires except for 2 simple things. Number 1, they spend way too much money on their cars and they get divorced. So the moral of the story is stick with your first spouse and drive a used car. And I think we kind of can agree on that. Now, on step 2, you said watch your expenses, and you talk about being house poor. What are you talking about, house poor?
I remember going to my friend's house, and seemed like they all had nicer houses. Their dad worked at the same factory that my dad did, and I couldn't quite understand why our home didn't seem to be quite as fancy as my friend's houses. And I'm referencing here, whether you're buying or renting, that too much of an income that you have to attain to make that house payment, pay those taxes and the upkeep, just to keep up with the Joneses, or have something that you want now rather than that delayed gratification I talked about, where now you can't afford to save. Where now you're strapped from paycheck to paycheck. That's house poor. And so step it back, buy what you can afford, and make sure that your ability to save is not impaired by the lifestyle that you live, and the house that you buy. One of the biggest offenses I see, this is a great example, is the frou-frou coffee drinks. Oh my goodness, $5 to $10. Look, I can buy any cup of coffee every day I want. Doesn't matter what type of coffee it is. But I have a Keurig in my kitchen, and I don't buy the pods. I do those when company comes. I have the little cup that you put your grounds in. I buy regular Folgers. It's cents a cup, and that's what I cook both at my office. That's what I cook also at my home. And I'm not spending $5, $10 a day. Literally, if you start at 20, buying $5 a day coffees, and you do that with compounded interest at 6%, you literally, by the time you retire, at 65 or 70, you'll nearly burn down a $2 million house. So you just don't understand the compound interest effect. And if you can just discipline yourself not to sacrifice good flavored coffee, but to sacrifice those fancy cups of coffee. And that's just an example. There are other things that we could point out in your life. You just don't need them, and it sacrifices your ability to save.
Yeah, and you talk about that in the book. I talk about that in the book as well. It's all about managing those expenses. Now, step 3 is about maximizing, your retirement accounts. Kind of go more in depth on that.
So it's important to optimize your IRA and your 401k and investment allocation while executing allocation between each paycheck for your plan. But also, you need to know and understand the difference between a pre-tax contribution and a Roth after-tax contribution. Now, it feels better to do the pre-tax because you're going to get some tax savings right out of the gate. You don't even see the taxes. But it's likely for those in their 20s, 30s, and sometimes even in their 40s, where they may actually be in a much lower tax bracket than they're going to be when they retire, where they may be much better off funding an after-tax Roth because the tax savings isn't sufficient enough to offset what taxes they'll pay later. Now, you need some help with this. You can't probably figure this out, most of you, on your own. You really need to go to an expert. You need a tax analysis. And you might even need to blend this. Also, don't just take the automatic allocation of the target date funds. Consider a selection of investments offered by your plan that is specifically good for you and your risk tolerances, and don't just take what automatically comes.
Now, Curtis, you started out with some humble beginnings in Iowa. You were a gypsum miner, hundreds of feet below the surface of the earth, and you talk about seize your opportunity to increase your income. What are you talking about there?
Well, I actually didn't go to college. I was about raising my son, taking care of my wife, buying a house, getting a car, and getting my butt to work. And that's what I did really early in life. Now, there was no way anyone could have convinced me that today I would be speaking on stages all over the world, that I'd be writing curriculum for an academic school as an adjunct professor, or that I would be helping the industry develop retirement income products that would now be pretty prime real estate for the retirement industry. All those things happen not because of my academia. All those things happen because of my passion, not just to improve me, but to improve the people for whom I served. And so I was always looking at those opportunities. My mind, my wheel was always turning. What else could I do? And always centered around how I could serve the clients that I would serve. Now, in my case, I was disabled at 21 years of age in that gypsum mine. I got hurt. I was disabled for 2.5 years. Now, what I had demonstrated with my money, despite the fact I didn't make a lot, to my own financial advisor, was I was good with my money. I saved money. I bought life insurance. I had disability. And so when I was disabled for about 1.5 years, 18 months, my advisor came to my home, did some business with us, and when we got to the foyer, he said, I think you believe that you're dried up. And he says, I want you to know I really don't know too many people twice your age that's made so little and accomplished so much. And I think you belong in my industry, in my business. And so it was my own financial advisor, to my surprise, that mentored me into the business at 23. Now that gave me the opportunity, though it was hard for the first 2 years. I hated it every day, thought I'd quit every day. But that gave me the opportunity to keep stepping into more opportunities. And as I began to figure things out, as I began to waddle around in this industry, crazy things happened, partly because of my contribution to others first, and then they would feed me back or give me opportunity, just like you, Tom. You know, we met in 2009, Kauai, Hawaii. I didn't know you from Adam. You didn't know me from Adam. And at the time, we really didn't know what that path looked like. But we've become quite good friends as a result of that collision. And you have given me tremendous opportunity that I would have never had to be on these platforms, these stages, and doing what we're doing today. And so you never know by that living and giving how it creates economic opportunity for your wealth.
Yeah. And you know, one of the things people have said to me is, Tom, $1 million isn't enough. And you kind of alluded to that in some places it's not going to be. And I don't disagree with that. But I say the first million is the hardest, because after you have your million, it kind of ties into your next step, number 5, using your money to make money. So talk a little bit about how you can use your money to make more money.
Well, too often people take the default investment allocations that their 401k offers them. And if they save money, they just have it in their bank account. These are economic mistakes as bad as buying $5 and $10 frou-frou coffee drinks every day. You need to get to a study about your money and how to make your money work for you. Now, in the beginning, it was just about paying the bills, buying the groceries, and saving that 10% and trying to give the 10%. That's what it was about in the beginning. And little by little, over time, I had a little surplus. Every time I gained a surplus, then I was putting more in my retirement plan, and I was saving a little bit more in the bank for my emergency fund. And as I began to get more and more surplus, I began to ask myself, what else could I do with that money to make more money? So how could I create some passivity, some passive income? And so be aware that there are alternatives out there. There are also things that you can do to leverage small businesses while you have your day job. I have 4 hats that I wear. At my financial firm, I speak as a professional speaker. I've developed software for retirement practitioners, and I do education through the college. And so I do all of that. My main day job is obviously my practice, my firm, and half the time I'm there and half the time I'm on the road doing these sorts of things. But I would get up at 4 in the morning and do all my emails and all my preparations before 8 o'clock, and then I'd go to the office and work all day and see 6, 8, 10, 12 clients during the day. And then I'd go home at night and then I'd work some more. And so get early, stay late, be the first, be the last, be the first to get there, the last to leave. Show, as a leader of your business, if you do have one, show your employees servant leadership. Show them they're willing to take out the trash, make the coffee. Show them that you're all about your clients, you're all about your whoever your customers are, you're also all about your employees.
So we talk about lifestyle creep, and you and I have discussed this, and we talked about that in the 3-day course. Why is it so important that people manage their lifestyle creep?
When you start making more, save it first. Or pay down the debt on the interest of your home. Now, there's a caveat to that. If the interest on your home, and we've gone through an amazing period where interest rates were nearly nothing. If your interest rate is less than you can earn on it in a safe way, don't pay down the debt on your house. Put more in the savings, the arbitrage, a higher return for the interest that you're paying. But if you're paying high interest debt, maybe you didn't get in on those low interest rates, or you bought a home recently, as soon as you save a bit more, then start paying down that debt. Get rid of that debt that gets in the way of you being able to save more. Increase those retirement contributions with each incremental increase that you have, and then understand that this is what will be the magic sauce to helping you retire well. It's, again, cinch by an inch, it's pile by the mile.
You know, Curtis, I think we've both seen in our life people who they know they're getting a pay raise in a few months and they already start spending it. Yeah. They buy a new car, they go on a vacation, and that is the wrong thing to do. What I would always tell my clients is, when you get a pay raise, take half of that pay raise and increase your savings, and then use the other half to increase your lifestyle. And after taxes, it's not even going to be half. But that's a way they can kind of get a little lifestyle creep, but still creep up in their investments.
Just don't increase your lifestyle for every pay raise that you get. Keep and constrain that lifestyle down and discipline yourself for more savings. And you'll find that it's really great. Now, let me give you one extreme idea that very few people will take me up on. But some of the most successful people I know that are just average Joe America have built enough emergency fund savings where they have a whole year in advance. And they sit down with their spouse and they budget. You don't have to, but they budget their lifestyle, their giving, and everything they do the next year. And all the income that they make this year goes for that next year's savings. And that stops the creep because they're organized. They're engineering their spending, they're engineering their savings, they're engineering their giving, and their control of their finances. They have a happy life.
Yeah, and I believe almost everybody can become wealthy if they seriously want to, but it takes discipline. And you can't always try to look wealthy. You've got to just focus on becoming wealthy. Now, you're an adjunct professor for the American College. You've helped them develop their retirement income certified professional program, but you also train advisors out there, and you've started this Thrive University. So tell us a little bit about Thrive. Who's it for? What does it do?
So Thrive University was designed once I discovered what I did in 1999 about buying lifetime income and how I could discount the cost of income. And it's what I call buy income and invest the difference, buy income and invest the rest. I could literally constrain the dollars I hold hostage to income, and I could double the amount of alpha performance I could get in the market or in those alternatives. And you know, Tom, you embraced this Thrive University with me very early on. In fact, I think you've attended and supported in your own speaking and teaching with me 5 times, I do believe. And in fact, we just did one last year in Phoenix, and you stopped by for about an hour and saw the guys. So you've been very instrumental, but that's to help advisors learn how to teach clients and how to manage those portfolios. And so usually these are going to be clients that are 10 to 15 years away from retirement. Sometimes they're 5 years. The earlier you can begin that retirement process, the smaller the vector change. Again, cent by the inch, pile by the mile. The sooner you can plan, the better off it's going to be. So this is to train advisors how to do it incredibly well.
So what's the website that if an advisor wanted to go to this, it's like a 2-day course, you run them throughout the year, and so there'll be different dates throughout the year. Where's the website that they would go to find that?
So it's www.thriveu.net. And so our next event is going to be in Phoenix. It's February the 6th and the 7th of 2024. It's time to sign up for you advisors out there that may be watching. It's time to get ready to come to class. It's a 2-day intensive training, and Tom, you've kind of created the promotion that we play for this. This ain't for beginners. This is for advisors that really are focused heavily on retirement planning and really want to know how to ratchet up their game.
So Curtis, if somebody wants to hire you to speak, if they want to work with you as a financial professional, how do they get a hold of you?
2 ways to do that is www.curtiscloke.com, and then our phone number is 515-298-4748. You can reach Michelle, my office manager, and she can discuss with you ways that you can engage our expertise and support.
Well, thank you, Curtis, for being with me today, and thank you all for watching. Again, this is Tom Hegna on Tom Hegna's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.